I'm Betsy Benson, publisher of Pittsburgh Magazine, and we are thrilled to be here with you tonight to honor women in business. I must admit, though, I'm feeling a little sad not to be seeing you in person with a glass of wine in my hand and in yours. I hope it being 7 o'clock and you being home and comfortable that you do have a glass of wine perhaps with you, or an adult beverage of some kind, and maybe we'll have a toast as we complete our evening. And I do miss a lot of things about my old life. I am trying very hard to look for those silver linings in this experience that we're all sharing. And in this case, I look at this exploration of a new technology to enhance networking and to create a new type of event. I find that very interesting and worthwhile. I hope you do too. So let's get started. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Pressley Ridge, UPMC Health Plan, and our presenting sponsor, S&T Bank. Since this is our first Women in Business event, there are a few different things to keep in mind to ensure everything runs smoothly. Please be sure to keep your mic muted when in this main meeting room, as we're calling it. Don't forget to update your name in your Zoom label there. Real simple to do. If you click on your name, you'll have some 3 dots option there. You can rename and make sure that you put in your first name, last name, and business or organization that you're affiliated with. We recommend selecting the speaker view in the right-hand corner, the upper right-hand corner. But then when you move to the breakout session, we think it's better to go to that gallery view. And I think those of you who are doing Zoom meetings multiple times a day will agree the gallery view just makes you feel like you're all around a table and communicating in a different way. Please submit any questions you may have via the chat. And I think, again, we're now really well-versed in Zoom, a lot of us. And even if you're not, you'll find that little chat feature at the bottom of your screen in the center. And feel free to click on that and plug in a question or a comment. If you run into any technical issues, you can send a message through that chat to Casey and Katie, who are helping run the show tonight. Okay, now we're going to review the agenda. First, we're going to hear from our nonprofit partner, Pressley Ridge. Then S&T Bank will present our honorees. Then, after we've been introduced to our 4 honorees, then we will move to the first of 2 breakout sessions. So there's going to be 2 15-minute breakout sessions where you can network and converse with a smaller group. And in that case, you do not want to be on mute. We want to hear from you. Let's see. So when you move to the breakout session, you don't have to do anything. That's the beauty of having Casey and Katie managing our event tonight. They will move you automatically. No need to press any buttons. And during the breakout session, we have a moderator designated for each of the groups to kind of lead that discussion a little bit. After 15 minutes, the breakout rooms will close. And again, you'll be automatically brought back to this main meeting room. And at that time, after the first breakout session, you're going to get to hear something very special. You're going to get to hear from Lynn Banaszak. And anyone who's ever heard Lynn speak or who knows Lynn knows that they're in for something special. So Lynn Banaszak will be speaking with us. Following the keynote, and it is sort of a brief note, phrasing that I've recently adopted, because in this format, we know it's just, you can't go on and on. But Lynn has a lot of very potent messages to share with you tonight. And then we'll have a brief Q&A. So again, via the chat, put your questions in for Lynn, and then I will deliver them for you on your behalf. Okay, so that's pretty much it. So we're on to the meat of the program at this point. So I'd like to welcome again our nonprofit partner, Pressley Ridge. I think most of you are familiar with Pressley Ridge. Certainly, if you've attended this event before, you've heard from them and heard about the wonderful work that they do. Pressley Ridge basically provides individuals and families with hope and support through life's challenges. Elisa DeLuca is the Director of Individual Giving and Donor Advancement at Pressley Ridge. Elisa.
Can everyone hear me? Yeah? Okay. Thank you, Betsy. And hi, everyone. I'm happy to be here tonight, and I'm so glad to see some faces here virtually that I recognize. And I echo what Betsy said. I wish we were seeing each other in person, but I'm glad we were able to get together this way this evening. So Pressley Ridge is really honored to be here tonight, as always, in partnership with Pittsburgh Magazine. And your contributions from attending the event tonight will help us to continue to support children and families right here in the Pittsburgh region, as well as in the 5 other states where we provide services. For those of you who might be unfamiliar with Pressley Ridge, we were founded in 1832 as 2 orphanages on the north side of Pittsburgh, one on Pressley Street and one on Ridge Avenue. So you put those together and that's how you get Pressley Ridge. 188 years later, we now serve 10,000 individuals and families each year through foster care and adoption, specialized education, and mental health services, which we provide in the community, in homes and schools, and in our outpatient clinics. So Pressley Ridge, if you're not aware, is an essential services provider. So since the shutdown, we have continued to do whatever it takes to serve our kids and families, while also doing everything possible to keep our staff healthy and safe. So for example, we have 5 schools in the Western Pennsylvania region. They have all implemented online classes, and our teachers are providing support virtually for our students. Our therapists across our footprint are providing services such as counseling and family support via telehealth applications. And we continue to provide support and training for our foster families as they navigate this new normal that they're in. So we're really happy to have been able to provide these services, continue providing these services that are so important to our kids and families. If you want to know more about what we do and where we are, you can visit our website at pressleyridge.org. But right now I want to introduce a short video to tell you a little bit more about our great organization. So enjoy.
Finding hope and support through life's challenges. We partner with our families to meet them where they are, when they need it most. We are grateful for those who have trusted Pressley Ridge to help build stable, healthy families and lifelong connections that lead to a successful, happy life. And we thank you, our communities, for investing in our mission. To find out more about our work in your community, visit pressleyridge.org.
Thank you, Elisa. Great video. Now I'd like to introduce Becky Stapleton. I hope many of you know Becky. She is Senior Executive Vice President and Chief Banking Officer with S&T. Becky.
Hey, good evening, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for being here. I have to tell you, I cannot be prouder than I am tonight, because S&T Bank and the Pittsburgh Magazine have gotten together and literally within less than 2 weeks collaborated on this effort, coordinated, figured out all the technology that needed to be involved to pull off the Women in Business Series' first virtual event. And I can't be prouder. It's an amazing thing to gather us all together when we can't be together in person. So the purpose, obviously, is to do some networking, to get to know each other, to honor great women doing great things in the Pittsburgh region, and certainly to raise needed funds for Pressley Ridge. What I'd like to do is to take some time and talk about the honorees. And we have 4 honorees tonight. I'm going to start with Amy Drushnak-Peer. So I want to read some things about her. So, although Amy Drushnak-Peer's title is Operations Manager, she wears many hats at the Latrobe Auto Group, and she always has. Back in the 1980s, she answered phones, greeted customers, worked as a cashier, and even sold cars for a short period of time. Following in her father's footsteps, he was the general manager of the dealership previously. Amy completed the National Automobile Dealers Association Dealer School in 2018. Amy frequently volunteers and loves to talk to young women who are trying to find their passion and career path. Amy says, no one is perfect, and out of those mistakes, lessons are learned, and sometimes those mistakes may lead to another opportunity. Here we are. Let's raise a glass and honor Amy Druschnack-Peer. All right, so next up is Sophie Lau. As the head of the senior school at Shadyside Academy, Sophie oversees 70 faculty and staff and 428 students. Considering she's been at the school for 6 years, 2 as assistant head and dean of faculty, and 4 in her current position, that's a lot of career highlights, doing a lot of good things for the academy. The Shadyside Academy was formed and founded in 1883 in Pittsburgh's Shadyside neighborhood, with its campus opening in 1922. The school recently acquired Fox Chapel Country Day School. The school features a liberal arts curriculum, but it's been recognized for its STEM program, reflecting Pittsburgh's growth from a city of steel to a technology hub. Sophie also considers herself a lifelong learner, which she tries to instill in her students. So when giving advice to other women in business, Sophie says she often thinks of Henry Ford. Her refrigerator magnet says, whether you think you can or think you can't, you are right. Sophie says you have to believe in yourself first. So congratulations, Sophie. Kudos to you and what you do at the Academy. And let's raise a glass to Sophie. So our third honoree is Cherise Nance. Let me tell you a little bit about her. As a licensed clinical social worker, she's certified clinical trauma professional and a compassion fatigue specialist. She took her first step into the business world in 2013 by co-founding Hand in Hand Counseling Services, LLC, in Penn Hills. Since its doors opened, Hand in Hand has expanded from a small part-time private practice to a full group counseling with 5 licensed mental health therapists on site. The company has provided nearly 1,000 clients with counseling services for depression, anxiety, complex trauma, and life transition. Cherise has also founded Vitamin C, which has provided nearly 50 nonprofit and social services organizations with workshops focused on increasing staff retention, employee morale, and work culture by focusing on healthier self-care practices. So this year, the company will host its inaugural Social Worker Appreciation of Greatness Awards. So talk about her being rewarded, and at the same time, she's giving back and making sure that others are recognized. So her advice for other businesswomen is to remain innovative and creative in your field while supporting those around you. She says, quote, collaborate with your sister, don't compete with her. So that phrase alone deserves a toast. Thank you, Cherise, and for all the work that you do. Cheers. And our last honoree, our fourth honoree this quarter, is Cindy Powell Stefan. She's the head of U.S. Device and Software Service in the Radiology Department at Bayer. Cindy says she feels lucky to be a leader in a healthcare company that thinks about patients' needs and improving the patient experience. She is involved in the pharmaceutical company's charitable giving activities and volunteer projects. Cindy joined the company in 2006 and has held positions in sales management, operations, and brand activation. Now she supervises 160 people, including a field-based engineering team in charge of the 24-hour upkeep of Bayer Radiology power injectors. I got to learn a little bit more about that. So here's Cindy's advice to women. Don't wait to assert yourself, even if it pushes you outside of your comfort zone. She says, I am proud to bring new thinking and experience to this industry, and I love the daily challenges. Raise your glass one more time to Cindy. Thank you for all of what you do for Bear in the community. And Betsy, thank you once again on behalf of S&T Bank and the Pittsburgh Magazine and allowing us to be the presenting sponsor. I can't think of a better way to gather people together, gather women together, and recognize the good that we do all alongside of raising funds for Pressley Ridge. So wonderful women doing great things. Betsy, now back to you.
Thank you, Becky. And, you know,
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure working with you all along. And great reading expertise. I think you have a future in as a TV anchor.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you to the honorees. What a great 4 women, so diverse, having expertise in so many different industries and organizations. And we really appreciate them sharing their stories with us. And would love to see them again in person one of these days. At this time, we are going to move into our first breakout session. There will be a moderator again in your breakout room to help guide the conversation. The transition to the breakouts will happen automatically. And after about 15 minutes, you'll be then automatically brought back to the main room where we will get to hear from Lynn Banaszak. See you soon. Okay, welcome back. We hope you enjoyed your conversations. Now we'd like to welcome our keynote speaker, and she is Lynn Banaszak. Be sure to remember to submit your questions through the chat feature in the Zoom there. You'll see it right at the bottom of your screen in the middle. Just click on that and you can type in anything that you're thinking. And then after the presentation, we'll read Lynn those questions, a few of them anyway, and we'll go from there. So let me tell you a little bit about Lynn. Lynn was named the Executive Director of the Digital Transformation and Innovator Center, sponsored by PwC at Carnegie Mellon University. As such, she is positioning data, artificial intelligence, and ethics to solve the world's biggest problems. Previously, in 2013, Lynn was recruited to be the founding executive director of the Disruptive Health Technology Institute, also at CMU. There she oversaw the investment of millions of dollars in new disruptive technology companies that are bringing improvements to the affordability, accessibility, quality, and simplicity of healthcare. And of course, right now we need that more than ever. But in whatever she does, Lynn has brought passion, leadership, and insight, whether it's her professional positions or in her board and her community work. Welcome, Lynn.
Thanks, Betsy. I appreciate it very much. Hi, everyone. It's definitely different to present this way, sort of to a flat screen, but I can tell you that in the spirit of being myself, I'm not wearing sensible shoes, which is why I can stand at this counter right now. Thank you for that warm introduction, Betsy. You know, it's a pleasure to be with you to talk about the subject matter that I'm going to share with you today. As Betsy said, I've spent a lot of my career in technology and innovation development and talking about data and artificial intelligence and all the ways that it's impacting our lives and sort of changing the way that we conduct ourselves, both professionally and personally. And in my personal life, I run the Kaylees Lynn McDowell Foundation, which is a family foundation that we started in 2016 after the tragic passing of my niece Kaylee from undiagnosed Crohn's disease and the catastrophic results that happened from that illness. And just today, I was thinking that as I'm here to talk about civility, it was a perfect day because in the foundation, we spent all morning working with the students at Woodland Hills high school and giving out 255 senior signs to let them know that we cared about them and spread some kindness. So it's a pleasure to sort of be with you today after such a really energizing day of spreading kindness, to talk a little bit about the science of civility and why nice really does matter according to research, both in our personal lives and in our professional lives. I think we all realize that we're in the midst of sort of a really rough and somewhat rude time in our history. From the anger that we see in politics and the impatience that we see in lines at stores, or road rage, or pundits shouting at each other on TV, to companies that are highly competitive, where toxic culture may not only be just condoned, but promoted. In some ways, I think through all of our outlets, we're having this feeling that maybe meanness has become, unfortunately, a nasty norm. And then all of us are sort of separated now, together but apart, as this world that we used to know has been turned upside down due to COVID-19. I think one of the beautiful results of being involved in a global pandemic is that suddenly some of the tragedy has brought us back to the basics. And what I mean is, from pots and pans, tributes at 7 p.m. to hospital workers and essential workers, to hanging hearts in your window to let your neighbors know that you are a safe place and you appreciate them going to work and take care of things so that you can be safe. Things like family and gratitude and a helping hand have perhaps given us an opportunity to hit the reset button, perhaps an opportunity to start to be nicer. And so what is nice? I was at a conference where Oprah Winfrey was the keynote speaker, and she was telling this story about how she went home to Stedman, and she was saying, I'm so exhausted. I'm so exhausted from being nice all the time. I'm so nice. I'm so tired from all the niceness. And Stedman looked at Oprah and said, "You're not actually that nice." Right? Now, Gail, she's nice. Yes, you're generous, you're hardworking, you're inclusive, but nice is a special kind of thing that I'm not sure you really have a hold on. And so, when we have that conversation at that conference, we really started thinking about it. Nice isn't really equating to sort of being a doormat or endlessly filling someone else's champagne glass or endlessly doing favors for others. Nice is actually being assertive, yet empathetic, strong, but definitely collaborative. I think a good way to describe nice is that nice is about taking the stage, but being willing to share the spotlight with someone else. And so, yes, we should work and play well with others because our moms and our dads and our grandmas have raised us right, or because our philosophy or our faith teaches us that kindness and compassion matters. And maybe just because we know in our hearts being nice is the ethical and honorable thing to do. But there's actually another compelling reason to be nice, because doing so has proven to give you the power to be more successful. In fact, there's an increasing number of studies out there that prove that kindness is not just a buzzword or a sweet notion, but it actually gives you a competitive advantage over your uncivil colleagues. And so if we looked at the place that we find ourselves in America today, there are lots of factors that are contributing to sort of the erosion of our civility. And you can see at the top, social media and the internet, politics in general, celebrities in their positions, lots of things that people in respondents to this study are saying are contributing to the state of being that we find ourselves in. Another study indicates that the percentage of employees who report being treated rudely by colleagues at least once a month has risen by an alarming 13 percentage points from when the study started in 1998 to where we find ourselves in 2020. Incivility is leading to diminished employee performance and increased employee turnover, And so if we look at how we react to incivility, surprisingly, and I think the good news is that most of us still take the action of just ignoring the rudeness or removing ourselves from the situation. And so as we look at this study results, I think what I want to do in this brief time that I'm talking with you today is really just highlight sort of 4 components that have been covered by the research that I've studied around civility that show us what matters in business and in life. The first being civility. So an annual poll on civility in society, but I have a company that does this all the time called Weber Shandwick, continues to show that a vast majority of Americans, 93% in fact, identify a civility problem in our society, with most of those respondents classifying it as a major problem. More than 8 in 10 of Americans, which is about 84%, have at least at one time or another experienced incivility and in a wide variety of situations, which we saw on the previous slide. Most typically while shopping or driving or while on social media. What civility does, though, is civility seeks common ground. Civility is empathy at work. It's humility. It's integrity. It's respect for others, and it's honoring the ideals of democratic engagement, meaning it's honoring the fact that you're willing to listen, even if your views aren't the same as someone else's. The increase, interestingly, in blaming the internet and social media for civility's demise in our society has more than doubled since the study first began investigating its role, from just 24% in 2012 to 57% of respondents last year saying that it's social media's fault that we're all so unkind to one another. So let's talk about kindness. The word kindness has its roots in Old English. Its original meaning is simple. It really just means lineage or kin. Kindness implies the recognition of being the same as others. It implies that people are motivated by the recognition to cooperate, to treat others as members of the family, to be generous and thoughtful. Kindness really is your superpower. And in the studies around business and kindness, the one that I've cited here for you to see today in the Harvard Business Review tells us that employees who found their leaders were respectful to them and considerate, where 92% of them felt that it gave them greater focus and prioritization. 56% thought that they felt better and their well-being was being honored at work. And 55% were feeling more engaged about their work. When we talk about healthcare, as Betsy mentioned earlier, 87% of Americans that took a survey around large healthcare systems said that they felt that kind treatment by a physician is more important than any other key consideration when choosing their healthcare provider. And nearly 88% of those said that they were willing to travel farther to receive just a simple, kinder care from their clinician. The next attribute of sort of conducting ourselves in a civil manner is warmth. And you know, it's interesting because warm seems like a real soft and fuzzy word to people, right? When you think about warmth, you really don't think about work. And yet research suggests that the way to truly be influential at work and to truly lead others is to actually begin with warmth. Warmth is seen as the conduit of influence. It facilitates trust and communication and the absorption of ideas. Even those few small nonverbal signals like a nod or a smile, an open gesture can show people that you're pleased to be in their company. Prioritizing warmth helps you connect immediately with those around you, demonstrating that you hear them, you understand them, and that you can be trusted by them. The interesting thing about warmth is that when it's been studied, it's actually more recognized over strength and skills and competence. A Princeton study of the cognitive or neural mechanisms that drive our spontaneous trait inferences, or those snap judgments that we make when we briefly look at faces, shows that when we're making those quick judgments about people, people consistently pick up on warmth much faster than they recognize someone's competence or strength. The next word is generosity. Generosity increases productivity and helps employees work more effectively. The University of Arizona did a very interesting study of 30 organizational behavior studies themselves, and which were representing almost 4,000 business units. And they found that people that were more generous to each other at work, gave philanthropically, etc., those higher rates of giving were predictable in increased other things at work, like unit profitability, customer satisfaction, lower costs, and efficiency. A study by this company called Zenger Folkman, which if you have a chance to go on their website, have very interesting white papers around all kinds of subjects on leadership. Talks about the fact that when a leader makes another person look good, it makes them look good too. And the analysis and data on their study strongly suggests that by giving others credit, a leader will be perceived as having a higher level of effectiveness. And this effectiveness is shown very interestingly through the ways that they behave. So are they treating people fairly? If they're treating people fairly, they are seen as being the most effective. And you can see all of the other attributes on this slide, which I won't spend any time reading. But you can see the very interesting and strong correlation between effectiveness and being kind and relating to the people that you work with. So definitely when we're talking about these attributes, it's contagious. And we know this in our own lives. Just by smiling at someone, which right now is hard to do, we all have to practice smiling with our eyes instead of our mouths, right? Because we need to be wearing masks and practicing social distancing. But all of this research suggests when you combine all of the things that I spoke about, civility, kindness, warmth, and generosity, rather than promoting a culture of competitiveness or stress, not only will people be happier in your workplace, but it will most definitely improve your bottom line. And so in the spirit and tradition of my good friend, Candy Castleberry Singleton, I'd like to end my brief remarks this way. You've been given this day to use as you will. You can waste it or you can use it for good. What you do today is important because you're exchanging a day of your life for it. When tomorrow comes, this day will be gone forever. In its place is something that you have left behind. Let it be something good. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lynn.
Welcome. You're welcome.
It was fantastic, exactly as I had hoped it would be.
Thanks.
I mean, I don't know about you, but these are stressful times and I am looking for inspiration, and you provided it. I so appreciate that.
Thank
I
you.
wonder if I could ask you to talk a little bit more about your niece and how that mission has played out in the foundation.
Well, I appreciate you asking about Kaylee. And so Kaylee passed away in her senior year at Woodland Hills High School, just 9 days before her 18th birthday. After 42-day battle in the hospital, she had undiagnosed Crohn's disease and unfortunately had a bowel blockage that created a cascade of just systemic tragedy and that she was not able to overcome. And from the time Kaylee was a little girl, I would look at her and think, I'm so worried because what's Kaylee going to do in this hard, nasty world? Because she literally was the nicest, kindest humanitarian that I had ever known. Even as a 2-year-old, she would say things that were so empathetic and wise and older than her years. And so when Kaylee passed away, our family decided that the best way to honor her passions and the best way to keep her goodness in the present tense was to form a foundation that could give scholarships to students to help them in their journey in life and recognize those students that not only are academically inclined or not only, do things that are interesting at school, but more importantly and most importantly are the people that find common ground with their peers and work hard to uplift others and make sure that everyone has a seat at the table like Kaylee did. And so the foundation gives scholarships We have a pop-up voter registration event. We've registered in just last several months almost 500 first-time voters and young people to vote in the next upcoming elections. And we do things, simple things like having a Mother Circle bereavement group for families that have lost children. You know, losing a child is something that less than 1% of the US population will experience in their life, the way that it happened to our family. And so it's a small circle of people that need each other's support.
Can you address how that that community, that foundation work, that personal community work has affected your professional approach and your professional work?
Of course. You know, I taught high school for a while in my early 20s, and I taught at a vocational school. So I had 12 different school districts and children from all over the area, from all different types of backgrounds. And the foundation supports a lesson that I learned in the front of that classroom, which was that you really have to meet everyone where they're coming from. Right? You know, as a young teacher, you know, I had my lesson plan book and my grade book, and I was thinking today's a day for, you know, number 1 through number 10. And very quickly I realized that your audience is actually more important than what you're trying to convey, because they're coming to you from lots of different places. And similarly to work, you know, when I'm working with entrepreneurs, when I'm working with corporate sponsors, when I'm working with world-renowned faculty at Carnegie Mellon, I think the lessons that I learned in the classroom, the lessons that I learned from Kaylee and the type of humanitarian and human being she was, and sort of just the lessons that you learn as a wise middle-aged person who's sort of taken your lumps and learned from your own obstacles, is that if we all start with warmth, if we all start with an understanding that all of the people that are sitting around the table are coming to this moment in time from varying places and may have lots of things on their minds, that it really does make a difference.
It does, and you make a difference, Lynn. So
thanks, Betsy. Thank you for that.
So we are now going to return to our second, or I shouldn't say return, because it will be a new group of people that you're assembled with. We'll be moving to our second and final networking session of about 15 minutes, and then we'll return for just a few closing items here in the main room. So hold on, you don't need to do anything. You're going to be transported magically into a networking session. So there we go. I hope you enjoyed the first networking session, the keynote session, and the second networking session. I know that I did. Just a few of my a few takeaways for me is that this time, while it is incredibly challenging and frustrating and stressful, it's also forced us to be creative. Thank you to my second networking session to giving me some inspiration there. And, you know, it's very exciting for us to have to come together to create something new, whatever it is, in whatever industry that you're in. In our case, we had to come together in kind of an intense period of time to build this event from nothing. And you were all here to make it, kind of bring it to life. So we appreciate that. Now, the one thing that was missing, because there wasn't much missing tonight, but was missing was a photographer. So before we go, I would like to ask everybody to pose in their Zoom video mode for a quick virtual couple of pictures. So I'm gonna prompt you and we're gonna get a couple of different pictures. So get ready. If you wanna clink your glass of wine, go right ahead. Dorothy, I don't know if you have a glass of Cabernet handy. Okay, so, okay, ready? 1, 2, 3, smile. And then we're going to do it one more time. One more time. 1, 2, 3, smile. Thank you so much for joining us in our first virtual Women in Business presented by S&T Bank. We hope you had a great time. I know I did. And we hope to see you again in July. Good night.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Good night. Bye, Cherise.
Betsy, real quick.
Yes.
So I did want to let you know. So I've been looking for weeks, and I have a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, and everything I've gone to, by the end of it, I'm like, oh, that just wasn't what I was looking for to take, like the time I have to go to a networking event virtually, I guess. And this has been very, very impactful and very much worth my time. So I appreciate it.
Oh, yeah.
This has been great.
Worth your time. That's what we want to hear. Worth
Very
your time.
much so.
Thank you, Devin.
Thank you, Devin.
Yep. Have a good night.
You too.
Thanks.